In this video, we will show you how to replace your front headlamp assemblies on this Ford Fusion. This will be mounted to the front of your vehicle. Let's get into it. We're going to start removing this forward panel up along the top. This is held in place with several push clips. To remove the push clips, you want to carefully remove the center to unlock it, and then you can remove the outer portion. You can use a small prying device. I'm using a trim tool. A quick inspection of the hardware as we continue on down the line. Last one right next to this hood latch. With all those out of place, we'll take hold of the panel, a quick inspection, and set it aside. As we move under the front bumper cover, you're going to find that you have several 7mm headed bolts making their way across. Ours is missing one in the center here. Should have 5. Let's remove all of these. Should be one there. Now we're going to continue on along each corner of the front of the vehicle. For each side, typically you're going to find some sort of push clip. It could have other hardware. Ours in particular does have push clips. For these push clips, I'm going to push in the center to unlock it and then pull it out of place. Your hardware may differ. For this one, I'm just going to reset it. Continue on to the next one. This one's falling out already. Now that we have this out of this side, let's make our way over to the other side of the front bumper cover, remove the 2 items, and then we can continue on to removing both front wheels. We've completed both sides of that bumper cover. We're at the wheels now. To remove the wheels, you're going to find you have 5 19mm lug nuts for each, and then you can get the wheel right off of the vehicle. Once you've removed the front wheels, we can continue on inside the fender liner area. You're going to find an area where the fender liner connects to your front bumper cover. Typically, there's going to be 3 push clips making their way up along the side here. Just using our trim tool, small prying device, pop these out of place. Continuing on dislodging the front fender liner, you're going to find that you have 2 10mm nut certs that are attached to studs holding this panel in place. Take hold of the bumper cover and the fender liner. We're going to gently start separating these two and pull the fender liner towards the center so we can have a look up in this area. With that hardware out of there, let's continue on just along this area. You're going to find that you have two 7mm headed mounting bolts. There's one in the corner here. It looks as though there's a port in the center. It could have been a piece of mounting hardware as well. Hard to tell. Get this next one out of here. At this point, let's repeat the process on the other side of the vehicle, and then we'll continue on along the center of this panel. Now along the center, you're going to find six 10mm headed mounting bolts making their way all the way across the vehicle. I'm going to save this one for last. Let's hold on to that panel. Remove your panel, set it aside. Put the panel out of the way. Let's make our way up inside the driver's side corner here. You're going to find you have a large wiring harness leading up to this connector. Let's go ahead and disconnect that. For it, you're going to find you have a small locking tab. Go ahead and squeeze that in and pull this out of place. There it is. Just a quick inspection of that for corrosion. Let's move over to the other side of the front bumper cover. Now up in this area of the bumper cover, there's an electrical connector right down here. Go ahead and squeeze in on that lock-in tab. Continue up just above that, you're going to find another electrical connector. Just follow this wiring harness up. All right, we've got the hardware out of there. Let's go ahead and take hold of this. We're going to start tugging it. We want to try to pull it out and away so we can make our way up inside this area. Squeeze. Just tug this. On the driver's side, you're going to find you have this electrical connector. The locking tab is on the forward side. We're just going to go ahead and squeeze on that. Pull that out of place. Now looking up in this area, you're going to find a plastic bracket. The plastic bracket is held to the bumper cover and it's holding the bumper cover to your front fender. To dislodge this, we're going to remove our two 8mm headed mounting bolts. Got one right here on the outer side. Get the next one. Take hold of that bumper cover. You should be able to pull it down a little bit and then pull it out and away. Now we're over on the passenger side. We've already removed the wheel, dislodged the fender liner, and now we're going to go ahead and dislodge that front bumper cover from the fender by removing our two 8mm headed mounting bolts. Once you have both sides of the front bumper cover dislodged, you can make your way back up into that engine compartment. Now back up here, along the top of the bumper cover, you're going to find that you have 2 push clips, one on each corner, and then you'll also find that you have 3 mounting screws making their way across the center. Let's start with the push clips. Using my trim tool. Now we'll be using a T25 Torx bit to remove each of our 3 mounting screws. We'll make sure we're holding onto the front bumper cover as we continue on. Go ahead and take hold of that front bumper cover. We're going to give it a wiggle and start pulling it out and away from the vehicle. At this point, we can start removing our front headlamp assembly. For this, you're going to find that there's 4 pieces of mounting hardware. Up along the top, we have a T25 Torx screw here. Moving inward, we have a T27 Torx screw straight down in this area. And then at the bottom of the headlamp, for the mounting bracket, there's 2 10mm bolts. Let's start at the bottom. In this area, you can see a white mounting bracket. We're going to remove the 2 10mm bolts from this. I'll start with the inboard one here. Get the next one. Let's make our way to the upper mounting hardware. T25. Be using a T27 here. Make sure you're holding onto that headlamp assembly. Take hold of the headlamp assembly and carefully slide it forward, but keep in mind, you do still have a wiring harness located along the back side. You can see it down in there. For this, it has a locking tab up along the top. We just want to go ahead and press in on that. Give it a wiggle and slide it out of place. A quick inspection for corrosion, of course. Assuming that looks good, we'll set that aside and remove the headlamp from the vehicle. There it is, friend. In this area, we're going to take hold of this and gently turn it counterclockwise and carefully start pulling it out and away. That exposes the bulb right there. You can replace it as necessary. This bulb is a PWY24W. Now that we have that out of the lamp assembly, we can continue on to removing the bulb. For this, you're going to find it has 2 locking tabs that you need to gently start prying away, and you can pull the bulb up and out of the connector. I'm just going to use a small pocket screwdriver, make my way underneath each one of the locking ears, gently prying this up and out. Typically after the first one, while rocking, it should pop up and out of place. All right, let's get that into the connector here. We want to make sure we have it properly aligned. We'll press it in. Listen for a click from both of those locking tabs, a light tug to confirm it's properly secured in place. To reinstall that, we're going to put it in position, sliding it in as far as possible, and then turn it clockwise, locking it in, a quick inspection to make sure it's secured. Now let's move towards where the center would be. There's a rubber cover that you should typically be able to just slide out of position. Just grab hold of that. There we are. Just a quick inspection of that. Now in this area, you can see an electrical connector and our bulb. Let's take hold of this. We'll turn it counterclockwise to dislodge the bulb with the wire connector still attached. Continuing from there, you'd want to go ahead and squeeze on the locking tab in the center of that connector and pull the bulb out of place. A quick inspection of both sides. There's the bulb. This bulb is an H11 bulb. Let's attach the connector to the bulb, press it in, listen for a click, a light tug to make sure it's secured in place. Now we can get this in place in the headlamp assembly. Press it in, turn it clockwise until it's completely secured. Reinstall your protective cover. For this, you want to align it and press it straight up against the back side of the headlamp assembly. A tug to ensure it's properly secured. Move on down the line. Let's get the seal off of here. We can start removing the electrical connector from the backside of our bulb. For this, you just want to take hold of it, lightly wiggle it while drawing it out and away. A quick inspection for corrosion, of course. Now, looking deep inside this area, you're going to find a metal clip that makes its way around a little hooked area that's part of the bracket. We need to squeeze this in and pull it out of the hooked area. While holding that up, we can remove the bulb from in this area. Just have to try to twist this and pull it out. This bulb is an H7 light bulb. Now we can get this into the headlamp assembly. When we bring it over, you want to pay attention for the flat area with the tab that protrudes down. We'll have that facing straight down into the headlamp assembly. Once it's pressed all the way against, we can lock it in with that metal tab. Just flex that around there. I can tell that it's properly aligned. Let's lock this in. I brought it under the hooked area. Now I'm just going to take hold of the bulb, try to give it a wiggle. I'm trying to pull it out and away, ensuring it's properly locked in. It's time for the wiring harness. Line it up, press it in. Press it on there as far as possible, give it a tug, ensuring it's properly secured in place. Now we can follow that wiring harness. You can see it right in here. We want to follow it up into the top of the headlamp assembly. You're going to find another bulb just up in that area. To remove this, it does have two locking tabs. We're going to go ahead and squeeze in on those and pull it out of place. Sometimes you can use your fingers, other times you might have to use some pliers. There's those locking tabs I spoke of, one up along the top, one down along the bottom. Squeeze them in, pull it out of place. That exposes a 194 bulb. For that, you can just go ahead and take hold of that and pull it out of place as well. Let's go ahead and install that. Double check, make sure that's secured. Let's bring it into the headlamp assembly. Align it, press it in, listen for a click. A quick tug, making sure it's properly secured in place. Now we can reinstall our protective plug. All right, let's get ready to install our headlamp. As we bring this into position, we need to start with the electrical connector along the back side. Let's get this in here. Press it in, listen for a click, a light tug. Let's continue sliding this in now. We'll start with the upper corner here. Start in that mounting bolt. We are not going to tighten any of the hardware until we have all of it started in. Get the next one here. Make our way to the bottom. Let's get the lower hardware in there. Let's get this aligned. Now, before we tighten the lower hardware, let's make our way back up to the top, and we'll end at the bottom here. Before we tighten the upper hardware, you want to make sure you take hold of the lamp assembly. We're going to start lifting it up and pressing it inward. Now, while holding it in this position, we can continue on tightening the hardware. Let's get this one. And now back underneath that headlamp assembly. At this point, we've installed one of the headlamp assemblies. Assuming you're doing these as a pair, go over to the other side of the vehicle and repeat the process. It's time to install the bumper cover. Let's take this, we'll get it in position along the top area here, starting in each of our two push clips, one on each corner. Press in the outer portion, lock it in with the center. Now we can start bringing the bumper cover in and across underneath the headlamp assembly and along the fender. Now we'll repeat the process on the other side of the vehicle. With the bumper in place on both sides of the vehicle, we're going to install the 8mm headed bolts that hold the bumper bracket to the fender. You want to do this on each side of the vehicle. Now we can start getting our fender liner in position. We'll align it with the mounting studs of the body of the vehicle, swinging it down, and it's time for our push pins. Got one right up along the top here. Press it in, press in the center to lock it in. Let's get these on here. Over on the driver's side, before you install the fender liner, we want to connect our connectors. We'll start with this one up here. Give that a tug, make sure it's secure. Now we have our larger connector, and press that in as well. Listen for a click, a light tug, make sure it's secure. And get this in position. Once we have that aligned with the mounting studs coming from the body of the vehicle, let's continue on to our 3 push pins. After those are installed, we have our 10mm nut certs. Just go ahead and start those on there. Snug them up. Now it's time to install our front wheel. We'll get this in place. Start on all 5 of our 19mm lug nuts. Once we have them bottomed out, get the wheels safely back on the ground and torque each of them to 100 foot-pounds. Before installing the lower panel, over on the passenger side and in behind the bumper cover, we have 2 electrical connectors to connect. We'll start with the smaller of the 2. This is for the air temp sensor. This is going to go right up in this area. We'll press it in, listen for a click. Let's move along to the next electrical connector. It's time for the lower panel. For this, we want to take the forward aspect of the lower panel and slide it up and above the bumper cover. Once you're sure you have it in the proper position, we have our 6 mounting bolts going across the center. Just go ahead and start those in. They're all started in, let's snug them up. Now we have our 4 mounting bolts that are coming across the front here that we had removed. Each side of the bumper cover, you should have some push clips holding the panel to the bumper cover. Let's move along to our 2 mounting screws along the side here. We've completed this side. Go ahead and do the exact same thing on the other side of the vehicle. With the wheels safely back on the ground, we'll be torquing these in a crisscross manner to 100 foot-pounds. Torqued. After torquing the wheels, we're back up in the engine compartment. It's time to start dealing with the upper mounting hardware for that bumper cover. We already started in the 2 push clips. At this point, we're going to start in the 3 mounting bolts, making their way across the front. Let's snug them up. Continuing on from there, it's time for our upper plastic panel. We'll rest this in position and start installing our clips. Okay, friend, we finished the installation of our headlamp assembly. The next thing that you want to do is go ahead and test the functionality of all of the bulbs, and then of course align the beam. Aside from that, thanks for watching.
Now we're going to get the vehicle ready to aim the headlights. Start with the tire pressure, making sure all 4 tires are set at the appropriate pressure. Remove any excessive weight that's not normally in the vehicle. Find a wall that you can drive up to where the ground is level. Measure 25 feet away from that wall and mark the ground. Drive your vehicle up to that mark. With the headlights off, look for the center dot in the headlight lens. Measure from the ground to that center dot. You can use a ruler to help you out. Transferring that measurement to the wall, making a mark with some tape. On the driver's side, measure down 4 inches, putting another piece of tape. For the passenger side, you only need to measure down 2 inches. Now turning the headlights on, it is easier to do this at night or in a dark area. Locating your headlight adjuster and using a Phillips head screwdriver, turn your adjuster one way or another to bring the headlight up or down. Once the headlight is adjusted to the tape mark on the wall, move on to the next headlight. If you're confused because the beams seem to blend together, you can always have someone stand in front of the other headlight while you make your adjustments for that one. Now your headlights are aligned and you're all set to go.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ, the only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.